Hello everyone, welcome to Let's DevOps. I am Sumit and today we are going to discuss about Azure Bicep modules. In this tutorial, first we'll understand what is Azure Bicep module, then we'll see the benefit of Bicep module and how it works, and after that we'll see the demo. So let's start. A module is just a Bicep file which is deployed from another Bicep file. It means that modules are also independent Bicep file which contains set of resources that deployed together. Now let's talk about the benefit of Bicep modules. Bicep modules helps to split complex template in a smaller part. So it is reusable, shareable, and also it focuses on a specific task. Now let's discuss the Bicep module syntax. So here we'll see how we can declare a module. So for that we need to first use the module keyword, after that the symbolic name, and then the path of the Bicep file, because module is nothing but a Bicep file. After that we need to provide the name, that will be linked deployment name, that we can discuss later also. And after that we need to provide the parameters. So parameter that needs to be passed to that specific Bicep file. So here we have some consideration. So first, like, we need to make sure that module name can't have the same as a parameter and a variable or a resource name. It must be unique. And also when we provide the path, we can provide the local path or a registry path. In this demo we'll see the local path itself. And after that we have to make sure that the module name is not static. Like if you want to keep it static, that is fine, but you'll have a conflict when there is a multiple call to the same module. So it's better to keep the dynamic name, that we'll also see in the demo. Now let's see how module works. It is not required to understand how module works, but this will definitely help in troubleshooting if you face any unexpected behavior. So first we'll see how the deployment works. So when we deploy a Bicep file using Azure CLI or a PowerShell, we optionally specify deployment name. If no name given, then it will pick the name from the file itself. The name of the deployment will be the file name. Assume that you are using a module in a Bicep file. It means that for each module, it will create a separate deployment. So if you notice here, assume that if I have created a module called my app under the main.bicep file, and under the app.bicep file I have created app service plan and app service app also. In this case, when I run this main.bicep file, it will create a two deployment. So first with the name of the main, and the second with the name of my app. Now let's understand how this generate the JSON file, because when we run our Bicep file, it will transform all of the file to a main.json file, and that's the process itself we call as a transpile. Now coming to the parameters and output in module. So as we know, it is best to use the parameters in file. So it is also recommended to use parameters in module, but it is not advisable to use default value in a module, because assume that if you are calling from the main and you have defined some default value in main also and in the Bicep module also, then there will be conflict and inconsistency. So it's better to declare the parameter but do not provide any default value in module file. Now let's also talk about the condition. We can add a condition in module or any Bicep file which gives us the flexibility to run or deploy the resource when there is a certain condition met. As for example, assume that I want to enable the diagnostic setting for only the production environment. Right? I don't want to enable it for the dev and test. So in this case, I can set a condition when there is a enable diagnostic setting is true, then I need to deploy that resources, and that can only happen on a production. So this is something that we declare in a module, but we can also define the condition so that when the condition met, it will create the resource. Let's talk about the module output. Module also can define the output, which helps to use in a parent Bicep file. Assume that if I want to create some resource through the Bicep module and I want that name because the resource is not yet created, and I want to use that resource in a next Bicep file or Bicep module, then I can use the module output, and this is how we can declare it. So we have options to use the output keyword, and then there is a storage account. Assume that if I want to get the storage account ID, this is how I have to declare, but there is options to get the output from the module file. Now talking about the chain module together. Chain module together is nothing but a single bicep file can call multiple modules in a same file. So that is called a chain modules together. So assume that if I have to create a VM, it means that first I'll create a virtual machine so that I can maybe call that module to create a virtual network, and then I can use, or I can create a virtual machine. So if you notice here, we are using the output of the first module. Here if you notice, this is the virtual network, that is the symbolic name of module, then outputs, and after that we have provided the subnet resource ID. So this will basically helps to create a VM. So now coming to the demo. In this demo, first we'll try to create a main bicep file, and after that we'll create a module for an application, and then we'll add a module to a main bicep file, bicep template. Then we'll also create a module for a CDN to deploy content delivery network, and after that we'll add the CDN to the bicep template. So this example I have taken from this this Microsoft document. You can also follow that, and I have attached the code to this GitHub, so you can also follow that. So let's start with the demo. Now let's discuss this scenario. So assume that I want to create a web app, and also I want to create a CDN, the content delivery network, but I want to only enable the CDN for a specific environment. Like assume that if I want to enable the CDN only for production, or only I want to enable that for a specific web apps. So first, in this case, what we'll do, first we'll try to create a module for application, then we'll create a module for CDN, and from the main bicep file we'll call this module. We'll also add a condition in the CDN, so whenever there is a condition met, then only it will run or deploy the CDN. So let's see that in a demo. So now I have opened the Visual Studio Code. So first here I'll create a folder called not here, basically here, and then I will create a folder called modules, and here I will define all the modules. And to use the best practice, we need to declare the module with the name of resource type. So assume that if I want to create a web app, I'll just give that app.bicep, and since I need to also create the module file for the CDN, so let's create a new file called cdn.bicep. Okay, so I have put the code in a GitHub, so from there we'll pick it up, and we'll also attach the link in the video description. So let me pick it up from here. Okay, so under the module I have this, so I'll just copy from here. Okay, and then I'll paste it here. So this is basically, if you notice here, this is for creating an app service plan and then web app, right? And here if you notice, we are not defining any default value. So as per the best practices in the module, we do not need to define the default value for the parameter. Okay, so here we are creating the app service plan and the web app. Now let's take the code from the CDN. So I'll just use this. Okay, so since this tutorial is mainly for understanding the module, so that's the reason I'm just kind of using the existing code. And yeah, so we created the modules with the name app.bicep and then cdn.bicep and kept it in the module folder. Okay, so let's create a main bicep file from where we will call all these two. Okay, now in the main.bicep file, I have already declared the parameter that is required to call those modules. So in the app.bicep file, if you notice, we need to declare the location, app service name, app service plan, and SKU. And for the CDN, we just need a host name, right? So let's go there. And as you know that the host name will only we get to know once the web app is created. So here we have defined that parameter with the default value. Let's call those modules one by one. So first we need to call the app module. So for that I need to use the module keyword, and after that the symbolic name, and then I have a modules. So here I have to provide the path. So since I'm going to call the app.bicep, I'll just provide that, and then here. Okay, so here after that we need to provide the name which will be used in deployment name. So maybe launch and then -app, and after that I have to provide the parameters, right? So since we already defined the parameters here, I just need to call one by one. So app service app name with the app service app name, app service plan name with app service plan name, then app service SKU with app service SKU. So if you notice here, still we have something we need to provide, like we have the parameter is missing. So this error will also give you that what is missing. So right now location, so let me add the location, and we have already defined it, right? So that's all for this particular module. Let's call the CDN now, right? So for the CDN I need to declare this app, and I have declared the symbolic name as a CDN, and here I need to call the CDN. Here we need to put the condition, right? We don't want to create a CDN for all of the websites. So assume that if the condition is deploy CDN, assume that if it is true, then only it will run that, right? So now I have to provide the name. So it will be launch, maybe this is the name of the CDN. You can always also give that the name with some dynamic, but yeah, as of now it's just fine. And after that I need to provide the parameters. In the parameters I need to define two parameters. One is HTTPS only, so it is true, and the next is the host is original host name. So as of now this host name will only come from the app, right? Because we don't know that name is what is the name, because we are using the unique string. So for that I need to call by the name, right? The symbolic name, the app dot outputs dot app service host name. Okay, so for this demo I've just made it as a false because it will take a lot of time to create a CDN. So but assume that in your case, if you wanted to deploy the CDN also, you can just enable. So let's run it. So for that I need to first connect to Azure. So now I need to call the resource group new agent resource group, resource group deployment, and then I will just provide the template file, template. So yeah, I need to just call the main.bicep because that is also calling the another module. So I'll just do it like that, and then that's all, right? So maybe I need to provide the resource group, and then I'll just say RG. Now I'll run it. So deployment got succeeded. Let's go to the Azure portal, and since I've deployed to the SRS RG, so I'll just go to the deployment, and under here I see the two deployment is created. One is for the main, that is basically it is calling the modules, that is the main, and then another is the launch app. And this main is basically picked up from the because we did not provide the deployment name, and the launch app is picked it from the app, right? So okay, so let's go to the resource group, and here you see this resources like app service plan and the app services got created. So right now we haven't enabled the CDN, but you just make it as true and then you can run it on your case. That's all for this demo and this tutorial. So today what we learned, we first learned the Azure Bicep modules, what are the benefit of Bicep module, how we can declare a Bicep, and then we saw the demo for creating a Bicep module for app and the CDN, and then how we call it from the main.bicep file. I hope this was helpful. If you have any issue or concern, you can write in the comment box. I will be happy to help. I have attached all the link of the GitHub code and my blog in a video description. You can follow from there.